Hello. This is going to be a little short episode, not a full-length podcast episode. This is just, I'll do these from time to time along with the full-length episodes, just kind of things I've been thinking about, things I want to talk about. And I want to talk about conversation. From the point I decided I wanted to do a podcast, I wanted it to be a conversation between two or more people. That's my preferred method of communication, and I like podcasts with multiple people. And I know my podcast, being that it's mostly just me most of the time, is probably somewhat boring. But one of the unfortunate circumstances of being in the area I'm in, and that kind of married with people the way they are today, it's kind of hard to find people who want to have a conversation. I like to talk to people. I like to sit down face to face and have a discussion with people about different thoughts and ideas. I enjoy talking to people who don't believe everything I believe or agree with everything I say. I like to be challenged, and I like to discuss things with people who are intelligent enough and eloquent enough in their discussion to challenge what I think and what I believe. And I think a lot of people don't like that, and I can understand that to some degree, but I think that may be some of the reason that conversation is dying. But I do believe that the electronic part of our life is a big killer when it comes to conversation. And if you listen to the podcast on my social media fast and how that went and what I did, then I get into that more there. And that has an episode all of its own. But I'm having trouble not getting to communicate with people, not getting to talk to people. I'm having a problem with that. I like the idea of going out, getting something to eat, and sitting down and really talking with people, but having a meaningful conversation, not going out and talking just for the sake of talking. And I know that may seem ridiculous or even ironic in a way, but I don't always want to socialize just for the need to socialize. You know, I do want to talk to people. Like, the only real discussions I have anymore are with my wife, and I enjoy those immensely because she knows me, and we don't agree on everything, but as we've aged and as we've lived together, I've kind of come to her side on a lot of things. She's kind of come to my side. She's convinced me of things I've been wrong, and I've convinced her of things maybe she was wrong about. And so we've met in a middle ground to where our conversations are enjoyable, but it's one conversation, and I'm sure she feels that way as well. I yearn for that, to expand upon that. And I have a lot of friends, to the degree that people have friends anymore. I don't know to what degree we really have friends anymore, but I have a lot of friends who I value their opinion. I know their opinion's different than mine, and I enjoy getting to hear it. The problem is I don't get to hear it. People that I thought would never isolate themselves or shut themselves down have managed to isolate and shut themselves down. It's hard to find somebody to talk to, and that's weird, because when I was growing up, my grandfather had a hardware store in a small rural area. I mean, a very rural area in eastern Kentucky. And that small little store was the stage for so many great conversations and debates. And my grandfather, in the infancy of the store, when I was younger, it was, I believe, built the year I was born in 1982. But the store had a layout, probably much like a lot of country stores and small stores in the area. But it had a gas heater that sat in the back, and and especially in the winter, they would be chairs all around that heater, and the old men would sit and they would discuss a lot of things. And in the summer, they would sit out on a bench out in front of the store, and some of the older gentlemen would whittle, and some of the others would just sit there, but they would sit and discuss things. And you know, I could only imagine an outsider coming in with our dialect and our accents and the way we lived, which has, for whatever reason, been looked down upon for many years by many different people. But I could see them looking at there being no value in those conversations, and I assure you there were great value in those conversations. Those old men sat and discussed everything from politics to religion to economics to social interactions. Most importantly, they spoke about history. They spoke about family histories in the area, and family lineage and family trees, and a distant family who had moved off. And I learned a lot. You know, I soon came to realize that almost every gentleman of my grandfather's age, born and bred right there on Pine Top where I was from, had lived away from Pine Top for some time in their lives, usually their working years, to Ohio or Indiana or Michigan, including my grandfather, who lived in Ohio and worked for Ford Motor Company. I realized that there was this great exodus of people from our region who went away and worked away from here because the employment opportunities simply weren't here. And I learned that through their discussions. I learned the nuances of illustrating a point intelligently, accurately, and with some degree of respect for the opposing view. Now that wasn't true for every person that came in there and partook in those discussions. It simply wasn't. But it was for many. And I watched my grandfather challenge views that were widely held amongst his peers, and I also seen him eloquently defend views that were widely held amongst his peers. I've seen a lot of those older gentlemen do that, and their ability to converse, their ability to articulate their feelings and their thoughts, that's so commonplace and so taken for granted. And in those years, I probably didn't appreciate the skill of conversation. I appreciated the conversation. Even as a child, I loved it. I'd sit on my grandfather's knee and listen, and and even once the store was closed in the evenings, we would go to his brother Estel's house, to his apartment, and we'd all sit in the living room, and they were it was like a large seating area, not reminiscent of a home, but more reminiscent of a gathering spot for people, and the conversations would often continue there. And I would listen and take in and learn the art of conversation and debate, and I feel that it helped me in life, and in a lot of ways allowed me to be more articulate, and definitely allowed me to express my opinions, and gave me the desire and the drive to express my opinions. And I think it come from that, and I value that greatly. And I feel that that's dying in a lot of ways. And I said that to somebody once, and they said, but on a 24-hour news cycle, it's nothing but talking heads. It's not really news, it's opinion, and there's 24 hours of it, and it's not people having conversations. It's people getting out sound bites and not really talking and not really conversing. So I do truly believe that the art of conversation is dying. And a lot of times on family outings with my kids and other relatives, I notice that the ability to sit down and hold a conversation amongst the younger members has kind of gone away. They're very involved in their devices, and albeit that is a part of their culture. That's a part of what they've become used to, and I understand that. But it feels like they don't understand conversation. Children who could write and tweet or text or type or even configure an academic paper with very precise and exact language seem to stutter and stammer over the simplest parts of starting a conversation and carrying it and keeping it and understanding it. And it's not that the knowledge isn't there, because these people and it's not kids. I mean, it's young adults as well. I see it in young adults. It's not a lack of intelligence. The intelligence is there, maybe even more so intelligent-wise than their predecessors. I mean, definitely the access to knowledge is more prevalent for them, but the ability to converse seems to be somewhat lost. I'd like to start an organization. I'd like to start a group of people who got together once a month, if nothing else, to just discuss things, to just have a conversation, not to debate, or it doesn't even have to be centered around anything other than, hey, how are you doing? How's the weather? The ability to converse, and that will lead its way into good conversation. And it seems ridiculous to desire such a thing because those things are dying, and it's something that I don't believe as a people we really put any value on and really hold on to and understand the importance of. If I could go back to my grandfather's store and have those conversations with those old men and listen to them once again, I would. And our conversation is about over. I try to keep these to 15 minutes because they're supposed to be short little things in between podcasts. I appreciate anybody who took the time to listen. And if you want to take the time to have a conversation with me, let's meet up. Let's get you on the podcast. Let's talk. You can reach me at authorjperk, P-E-R-K, @gmail.com. And if you get a chance, go over to iTunes, download these, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And maybe we'll cover conversations in a more in-depth manner down the road. But thank you for listening, and have a good day.